One of them is on a boat right now, engine humming, coffee in hand, watching the sun come up over a marina in the Pacific Northwest. Their home moves when they want it to. Their address changes with the tide. Their mortgage is non-existent because they paid $45,000 cash for a vessel that would cost $400,000 as a house in the same city. The other person is on the water too, but their home doesn't move, doesn't rock, doesn't smell like diesel. It has a full-size kitchen, a washer and dryer, radiant floor heating, and a front porch that sits 8 inches above the surface of a lake in Oregon. They paid $280,000 for it, and their neighbors have been there for 20 years. Same dream, completely different reality. And the choice between these two paths, houseboat versus floating home, has consequences for your finances, your lifestyle, your legal standing, and your daily comfort that most people don't fully understand before they commit to one of them. Today I'm laying out the honest comparison. Everything that's great about both, everything that's hard about both, and the question in the end that will tell you exactly which one is yours. If water living, alternative housing, and doing things differently is your world, subscribe to Tiny Homes and hit the bell. One honest deep dive every week. Let's get into it, because this gets confused constantly and the confusion leads to expensive mistakes. A houseboat is a vessel. It has a hull. It has a motor, or at minimum the capacity to move under its own power or be towed. It is registered as a boat with your state's Department of Motor Vehicles or equivalent marine authority. It is insured as a boat. It is financed, if it's financed at all, as a boat, which means marine lending with different terms than a mortgage. And critically, it is subject to Coast Guard regulations and maritime law in ways that a house never is. When you buy a houseboat, you are buying a boat that someone has made comfortable enough to live in. A floating home is a structure. It has a float, typically a concrete or foam-filled steel hull, but it has no propulsion system. It cannot move under its own power. It is not registered as a vessel. In most jurisdictions, it is classified as real property, the same legal category as a house on land, which means it can be financed with a conventional or near-conventional mortgage, insured as a dwelling, and in some cases even qualify for a homestead exemption on property taxes. When you buy a floating home, you are buying a house that someone has placed on water. That distinction, vessel versus structure, boat versus real property, is not just semantic. It determines how you finance it, how you insure it, what codes it must meet, how it's taxed, what rights you have if the marina wants to evict you, and what happens if there's a fire or a flood or a storm. Every practical difference between these two living situations flows from that one fundamental definitional difference. Let me tell you what living on a houseboat is actually like from the people who do it, not from the marina brochure. The first thing people say when you ask them why they chose a houseboat over a floating home is always some version of freedom. The ability to leave. To move the house when the neighborhood changes or the marina raises slip fees or the relationship with the water feels stale and you want a different view. That freedom is real and it is genuinely intoxicating for the right type of person. There is something about knowing your home can move that changes how you relate to wherever it is right now. The financial entry point is dramatically lower than a floating home in most markets. A livable houseboat, something structurally sound, mechanically functional, and comfortable enough for full-time living, starts at $25,000 to $60,000 in most American marina markets. The upper end of the houseboat market reaches $400,000 to $600,000 for large, extensively renovated vessels in premium locations. But the floor is accessible in a way that the floating home market simply is not. The cost to keep a houseboat afloat, and I mean that literally, is the part that surprises people most. Slip fees at the marina run $500 to $1,800 per month depending on location, vessel size, and amenities. Marine insurance runs $1,500 to $4,000 per year. Maintenance on a vessel, hull outs every 2 to 3 years to inspect and treat the hull, engine servicing, mechanical systems upkeep, runs $2,000 to $6,000 per year on a well-maintained older vessel, more on a neglected one. A marine survey before purchase, which is not optional, full stop, costs $500 to $1,500. Here's the thing about maintenance that every experienced liveaboard will tell you and that you need to hear directly. Boats deteriorate constantly. The marine environment, salt water or fresh water, both, is aggressive toward every material a boat is made of. Wood rots, metal corrodes, fiberglass delaminates, rubber perishes. Every system on a boat, electrical, plumbing, mechanical, operates in conditions that are harder on materials than any land-based environment. If you are not someone who is comfortable doing maintenance work, comfortable learning to do maintenance work, or comfortable paying consistently for professionals to do it, a houseboat will make you miserable regardless of how beautiful the view is. The liveaboards who thrive on houseboats are almost universally people who are comfortable with impermanence, comfortable with the physical demands of vessel maintenance, and genuinely excited rather than anxious about the unpredictability that comes with living on something that floats. The ones who struggle are people who wanted the aesthetic of water living without the reality of vessel ownership. Those are two different things, and you need to know which one you actually are. The floating home is a fundamentally different animal, and it attracts a fundamentally different person. Walk into a well-designed floating home in Portland or Seattle or Sausalito and you will forget, genuinely forget, that you are on water. The floor doesn't move. The walls don't flex. There is no diesel smell, no bilge pump cycling on at 3 a.m., no awareness of the hull beneath you unless you look over the edge of your deck and see it. The experience of the interior is the experience of a well-designed small house. That stability is not a compromise. For many people, it's the point. The spaces in floating homes have reached a level of design sophistication in the last decade that genuinely rivals the best land-based residential architecture at the same price point. Full-height ceilings, open-plan living spaces with walls of glass facing the water, primary bedrooms with views that no land-based house at the same price could offer, outdoor decks that sit at water level and create an intimacy with the surface below that even the best houseboat can't produce because the houseboat's deck is above the waterline by necessity. The permanence of a floating home, both physical and legal, creates stability that changes how you inhabit it. Because it can't move, every design decision is made for long-term comfort rather than for the compromises that vessel life requires. The kitchen is a real kitchen. The bathroom is a real bathroom. The insulation is real insulation that performs winter after winter without the compromises that a vessel hull forces on you. People raise children in floating homes. They grow old in them. They renovate them the way you renovate a house, with contractors, permits, and the expectation of decades of use. The cost reality is harder than the houseboat. Entry-level floating homes in desirable markets, Portland, Seattle, Sausalito, Amsterdam-influenced communities on the Great Lakes, start at $150,000 to $250,000 and can reach $800,000 or more for large, architecturally significant examples in premium slip locations. The slip itself, the moorage where your floating home sits, is either leased or purchased, and this distinction matters enormously. A lease slip gives you access that can be revoked, renegotiated, or priced you out of at the marina's discretion. A purchase slip gives you real property that you own, that has a deed, that you can sell. In markets with strong floating home communities, purchase slips are valuable assets in their own right. Moorage fees for floating homes run $600 to $2,000 per month in most markets, covering water, soil connection, and shared marina infrastructure. Property taxes apply, at rates that reflect real property assessment rather than vessel registration. And the community aspect, the cluster of floating homes sharing a dock, creates a social dynamic that is unlike any land-based neighborhood. Neighbors are close in a way that is unavoidable, and that is either a feature or a bug entirely depending on your personality. Let me put the numbers next to each other directly because this is where the decision often gets made. Entry cost for a livable houseboat in most U.S. markets, $25,000 to $150,000. Financing is marine lending, typically 10 to 20% down, 15 to 20-year terms. Interest rates running 1 to 3% above conventional mortgage rates. Some vessels, particularly older ones, are cash purchases only because marine lenders won't finance boats over a certain age. Monthly carrying cost including slip fees, insurance, and maintenance reserve, $900 to $2,800 depending on vessel size and location. Entry cost for a floating home in most U.S. markets, $150,000 to $500,000. Financing depends heavily on jurisdiction and whether the floating home is classified as real property. In Portland and Seattle, where floating homes have established real property status, conventional mortgage financing is available at standard residential rates. In markets where floating homes are classified as vessels, financing is marine lending with the associated higher rates and shorter terms. Monthly carrying cost including moorage, insurance, taxes, and maintenance reserve, $1,400 to $3,500 depending on size and location. The houseboat wins the entry cost comparison decisively. If budget is the primary constraint, if you have $50,000 to work with and you want to live on the water, the houseboat is the path. There is no floating home on the market in a desirable location for $50,000. The floating home wins the long-term financial stability comparison. Real property appreciates. Vessels depreciate. A floating home in Portland that cost $180,000 in 2010 is worth $380,000 to $450,000 in 2026 in the right location. A houseboat purchased for $80,000 in 2010 is worth, depending on its condition and maintenance history, somewhere between $40,000 and $90,000 in 2026. Maintenance, age, and the marine environment have done their work on it over 16 years. The floating home sat on its moorage and appreciated. The houseboat moved, lived, and aged. This difference, appreciation versus depreciation, is the most important financial comparison between the two, and it's almost never discussed honestly in water living content because it requires acknowledging that one of these choices builds equity and the other generally does not. I want to spend time on the things that both houseboat and floating home communities tend to downplay because they are the things that break people's water living dreams when they encounter them unexpectedly. For houseboat owners, the hard truth is weather. A liveaboard vessel in a region with serious winter weather, the Pacific Northwest, the Great Lakes, New England, is a cold, wet, maintenance-intensive environment from November through March. Condensation is constant. Heating costs are significant. The marine environment that feels magical in July feels hostile in February. The liveaboards who make it long-term in cold climates are people who either genuinely enjoy the challenge of keeping a vessel comfortable in cold weather, or who have enough mechanical skill to solve the problems as they arise. The ones who leave by their second winter are the ones who underestimated the physical reality of the cold season. The health and safety reality of liveaboard vessel life also deserves honest discussion. Propane systems on boats require regular inspection and can produce carbon monoxide in ways that a land-based propane appliance would not because the enclosed nature of a vessel hull concentrates gas leaks. Electrical systems on boats are in a marine environment that is corrosive to connections and wiring in ways that land-based electrical is not. Fire risk on a vessel, especially a wood vessel, is significant, and the ability to escape a burning boat at 2 a.m. is not the same as escaping a burning house. Marine safety protocols exist for good reasons, and they need to be learned and practiced, not just acknowledged. For floating home residents, the hard truth is the slip situation. The most financially precarious position in all of water living is owning a floating home on a leased slip in a marina that is itself on leased land from a port authority or government entity. There are documented cases, multiple of them, in San Francisco Bay, in various Pacific Northwest markets, where marinas have been redeveloped, where slip leases have not been renewed, where floating home communities have been forced to move their homes at significant expense or simply disband. When your home can't move easily and the ground it sits on can be taken away from you, you are in a vulnerable position that homeowners on titled land are not. The homework you need to do before buying a floating home is not just inspecting the structure, it's understanding the slip tenure. Is it leased month to month, leased long-term, owned outright? What is the history of the marina's relationship with its slip holders? What does the slip lease say about renewal, rent increases, and the marina's right to terminate? These questions are less romantic than choosing light fixtures, and they are infinitely more important. Here's the honest, sorting question that cuts through everything else. The houseboat is for you if the freedom to move is something you would actually use, not theoretically appreciate, but genuinely use. If the idea of your home being able to leave with you on a Tuesday when the mood strikes is a feature and not just a selling point. If you are comfortable with ongoing mechanical engagement with your home, treating it as a vehicle as much as a dwelling. If your financial priority is the lowest possible entry cost and you're genuinely comfortable with a depreciation reality. And if you are someone who finds the impermanence of vessel life exciting rather than unsettling. The floating home is for you if stability, physical, legal, financial, is what you're actually after. If you want the water view and the water lifestyle, but you want to come home to something that doesn't move, that has real insulation, that has a real kitchen, and that will be worth more in 10 years than it is today. If community matters to you and you want neighbors who have been there for decades and intend to stay. And if you have the financial capacity for the higher entry cost that genuine real property on water commands. The honest overlap is this. Both of these lives are real. Both of them are chosen by real people for real reasons and lived successfully for decades. Neither of them is a fantasy. Neither of them is for everyone. The question isn't which one is better. The question is which one is honest about who you actually are, not who you want to be, not who you imagine yourself being on a sunny Saturday in July, but who you are on a February Tuesday when the heating system needs attention and the slip fee is due and the view outside is gray water under a gray sky. If that version of the life still sounds right to you, that's the one you build. Here's where I land after everything. The houseboat and the floating home are both answers to the same question. What if my home was on water? But they are answers that come from different philosophies about what a home is supposed to be. The houseboat says a home is a vessel. It moves, it lives, it ages, it requires constant care, and the freedom it provides is worth the work it demands. The floating home says a home is a place. It stays, it appreciates, it roots you to a community and a location, and the stability it provides is worth the higher cost it demands. Neither philosophy is wrong. Both of them are honest about their trade-offs in a way that most housing choices are not. Because water forces honesty. You cannot ignore a leaking hull the way you can ignore a leaking roof for another season. The water demands your attention, and that demand, for the people who choose this life and stay in it, becomes the thing they love most about it. The comparison guide, the slip tenure checklist, the marine survey breakdown, and the floating home financing guide by state are all in the description. Use them before you make any decisions. And drop in the comments, houseboat or floating home, where you are with this and what's pulling you toward the water in the first place. I read every single one. Subscribe to Tiny Homes if you're not already here. Every week, real depth, honest detail. See you in the next one.